Hi there, Michael Bovey with Consumer Recovery Network, and thanks for tuning into our YouTube channel, Debt Bites. Today I want to do an additional reader question, and this one's from Michelle. Michelle writes in to ask, what's your experience with companies that attempt to dispute debt as being uncollectible if a collection agency or a debt purchaser doesn't have proper documentation? And she's referring to like your original application for credit and things like that. So, Michelle, my experience with that is most of it's just a scam or a way to get people to pay to do something that, one, is not even necessary or can't even qualify as legitimate, especially given the fact that you're talking about a debt collector not having your original application. Hell, your creditor probably doesn't have your original application because most of us apply for these things online, and so it's an electronic thing. It's not like you have a wet blue ink signature on a credit application. What you have, though, is a history of paying that card, right? So you have billing statements that have come out to you on a monthly basis, whether electronically or in the mail, and you have use of the card and you paying the bill for whatever period of time. Let's say it was 5 years of getting your statement, using the card, paying your bill. So that establishes you had the card, you had the account, you used it, you were fine with it. There is no requirement for you to be, as far as the debt collector and a debt purchaser, to be able to show up with your credit application when you request it of them in some kind of administrative process. And let me be clear, you have a legal right to request that your debt be validated or enter into some kind of dispute about a portion or all of a debt, okay? What is taken way out of context by a lot of places online and people that basically want to charge folks thousands of dollars to basically ignore their debt, which you can do on your own. You don't need to pay anybody for that privilege. These debt invalidators, is that your right to request validation triggers an obligation on the collector or purchaser's part, and that obligation is so low they can trip over it on the way to the water cooler in the morning. Okay, it's not the big deal that people make it out to be. There's no requirement to send you the purchase application. There's no requirement for them to file or return information about a ton of things. Actually, they're not even really, in a traditional sense of a debt validation, required to send you statements. That comes later when you do this kind of challenge and things appropriately in court, which most of us want to avoid. So you're thinking, how do I get out of debt? Do I use one of these companies? Do I pay them money to help me navigate some overstretched legal theory where now I'm just, they're going to go away and all the collectors will ignore me? That doesn't happen, okay? Try that stuff with Discover. Ask whoever it is that you're thinking about hiring. You did include the company name in here, and I don't typically do videos about specific debt eliminators or anything like that, so I won't today. Find out how well they do with Discover debt, how well they do with Capital One, American Express. These are all the creditors that have a long history, and by long I'm talking like 20 years plus, of taking challenges like this. They don't sell debt. Cap One maybe started, but Discover hasn't recently in many years. American Express doesn't, period. So these guys aren't going to be dealing with debt purchasers. They're going to be dealing with debt collection agencies and debt collection attorney firms, and they sue. So in response to your request for all these things, well, you're going to find yourself with a debt collection law firm sooner than you would have, or maybe would have at all, by using some of these alternative dispute programs. I want to give a little bit more backstory why Michelle is even thinking about these things. So she writes about her having Chase balances in the 20,000, Wells Fargo over 10,000, American Express, and Nordstrom card. Monthly payments of $1,100 are just unaffordable. Chase went to a debt collector after 120 days of non-payment. So Chase isn't suing right now because of regulatory issues that they had stemming for many years. That's been settled. I expect them to engage in some form of litigation later, but right now Chase is not a priority, and it's your largest creditor. You have options to settle with them down the road if you want to resolve that debt and get it updated on your credit report, but paying somebody the privilege of sending some administrative secret, squirrel letters, secret coder ring letters that really are garbage for the most part, is not a good use of your funds. Save it up, settle, and for as long as you can. If it comes to a point where you know what, it's gotten out of hand and you're unable to settle, use that money to file bankruptcy. That's probably a better use of where you're at. You've been researching your best options to dig yourself out of this hole. Monthly income can't support monthly expenses or credit card payments, and you have a good job, you own your home with some equity, and you don't want to lose it by filing bankruptcy. You live in California. So there's bankruptcy exemptions if you haven't looked into those, whether or not you qualify, whether or not your husband and you combined or your spouse or you combined, or your age allows you a better exemption to be able to keep your home and your home equity in California. Find that out from a bankruptcy attorney that practices in your area. Also understand that the fact that you have some equity in your home or even own a home makes you a bigger target for lawsuits. You know, debt collectors are paying attention, and they target, often enough anyway, people that look like they should be able to afford to pay, or at least if they get a judgment, they can put a lien on their home and then force them to pay, right? So you're in a situation where challenging these kind of things is actually probably just going to lead to more aggressive collection. So not only is it a bad idea and a waste of money, it actually can backfire and make you look like somebody that should be targeted for a lawsuit because you make these challenges. So in closing, Michelle, and anybody watching this video that is inclined to engage in some kind of dispute process with the intent that it's going to make it so you don't have to pay your debt back, it's a tough road to go down. The fact is, if you can't afford your bills and you just stop paying them, you're going to start dealing with debt collectors, and you'll have just as much success taking none of their phone calls, responding to none of their letters, as you would using any of these administrative letter writing campaigns that people charge thousands of dollars for. And you didn't have to pay for it, right? And you actually could avoid having caused even more of a situation for yourself by not sending in these letters and these legal challenges that banks and collectors are going to put in front of their legal staff and say, how do we respond to this? And they've got a response for you. They do. It's not like 20 years ago where they don't know what to do with this and they fill a room full of boxes of these letters that they get. So avoid those programs. Michael Bovee, see you on the next video.